pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I move on, I would like to take a moment to point out that in response to a request to be able to view the data that's presented during meetings, the solution that we have brought forward tonight is a large screen. So for those of you viewing, we do have a large screen here. I don't know that that's going to help people that are streaming in, but for the audience that's present, I hope that works for you, and feel free after the meeting to let us know how it works out. We now have public forum, and first tonight is Dee Haraz. Okay, so the second one is for an item on the agenda.
What's that?
The second one is intended for items on the agenda only. Okay.
Okay, so last school board meeting, I hit you guys with some pretty harsh realities. Sorry. Last school board meeting, I hit you guys with some pretty harsh realities. I'm hoping that everybody had let their egos relax and their emotions calm down and really think about what I said. Because now we need to move forward and find solutions. Golden bus service is a problem. According to federal and state law under Article 19A, these drivers are supposed to be drug tested pre-employment and randomly during employment. It doesn't seem like anybody's keeping up on this. I have had students tell me that most recently, a BOCES bus, a teacher had to get the children off the bus because the driver was under the influence. Now granted, this teacher is not a medical professional to diagnose, but she had enough common sense to realize that these children needed to be saved. And she did the right thing and called the police and got the kids off that bus. My second concern, the presentation on the survey at the last board meeting, great presentation, wonderfully put. However, the information on it is inaccurate. Students have told me that they were sent this survey in guided study hall to complete. They did not read it, they clicked through it to get it done and over with. Other students have told me they had teachers looking over their shoulders and giving them the correct answers to the questions. That's inaccurate information, and I don't see how we can really do much good with that. I think our school district has a real problem with communication and honesty, and I think that that needs to be addressed. I think that maybe a few suggestions would be to have a complaint form easily accessible to students and parents that they can fill out either with their names or anonymously, that we can get directly to the school board so that you can address these issues. Because I've heard from a lot of the school board members, you don't get told about these things, you have no knowledge of these things, or they may be rumors and gossips and get pushed aside. So I think that if we have it in writing in some form, that would be great. I also think if we could do a special school board meeting for the students where they talk and you listen, preferably during school hours where they can attend easily, I think that would be helpful. Because I think that we really need to start listening to our students and what they have to say, because it's very different than what all the adults are talking about. And they have a lot of issues and concerns that they want addressed. Our school representative on the school board does a fantastic job. But other students need to be heard, and they don't really know the means to do so, and neither do a lot of parents. We need to make communication more open, honest, and easily accessible. Because that's what I'm hearing from students and parents. They just don't know how to go about it.
Excuse me, time's up.
Okay. So, and the 3-minute rule I would like to address again, if we can change that policy.
Frank Castilia.
Evening. First off, I want to thank you for the large screen. It is very nice, and I appreciate it. I would still like to be able to take something home, but everything that you present, is it available online so that I could look at it at home? Okay, good enough, all right. The main reason I wanted to speak again tonight is last meeting, I believe it was, is I brought up the P-TECH program. And when students are going on to college at OCC, they're being told that they have to have their COVID shots. If not, they're not allowed to go to OCC. I asked to find out if that was fact or fiction, and I would like to know that, because the reason I ask it is a fellow legislator from the Hannibal School District said that one of their students had gone through the whole program, was ready to go to OCC, was told that he couldn't attend OCC because he hadn't gotten his shots, and some people still are saying that they do not want to get their shots in any way, shape, or form. So that's why I'm asking that question. The second thing is, in my first meeting, I brought up about us bleeding money through paying taxes on our gas, because we were paying at the pump prices. Now, I know that there has been a meeting set up between the gentleman that owns where Babcock used to be and the school district, but that goes from, I believe it was January, even November of last year, that the contract was put into effect. So we've been paying pump price since then. And that, that's something that has to be looked at, because I know that my boss, okay, which is, he's
That's
very
not true,
good.
Frank. I told you this. It's not true. We do not pay taxes. We pay the pump price less the taxes.
Well, you, unless you're sending in to get a kickback from the state.
Okay, let me explain one more time, because what you do is you get the receipt as an employee. It shows you the price with the tax in it. We get a bill less the taxes based on the gallons. That's the bill that's submitted to our business office.
Not according to the guy that owns the business, because he submits the bill as is with the taxes on it, and that's what he gets paid.
We do
Okay.
not pay the taxes. I've checked with our business office personnel. We do not pay the taxes. They take your receipt with the tax on it. They're simply using that receipt to look for the gallons, to add up all the gallons that are pumped into vehicles, to make sure that the gallons we're being charged for is the correct amount of gallons.
Then the gentleman at
I don't
Raoul-
know, and I'm not calling them any names, Frank. I
No,
don't know.
No, and I'm not saying anybody should call anybody any names, okay? All I'm telling you is that the pump price that he submits is what he gets paid back. He does not get paid back less the taxes, because he pays the taxes, okay? And he has been asked to come, to come into the business office and talk about signing a contract to do, a whatever we call our form that we make out to get a tax relief. Okay, that's all I'm telling you. Okay.
You know if that's true? Yes, Dr. Lisi, could you answer that question?
Actually met with him today to discuss the issue. So at the last meeting when we tried to clear up this issue, one of the things that we do get the bill. On the bill, there's no tax noted on the bill itself. We simply pay pump price, no sales tax. If by chance, and I think, I want to be very careful with what I say about the owner here. I think there might be some misinterpretation of sales tax on the owner's part, and we're having that discussion with him and what that means, because we provided him with our sales tax exempt form. What I also provided with the board last time was that if there was an error, if by chance we were charged sales tax without it being noted on the bill, we have the ability to apply for that through New York State to have that reimbursed. So we are discussing this with him at this point, because I think there, like I mentioned, there's a misinterpretation on his part about New York State sales tax and how that works. So we're trying to work through with him and his accountant to make sure that that's accurate.
So you're paying the pump price less the sales tax.
Right.
But
We receive a bill, and if we're charged sales tax, that has to be itemized on the bill. There is no itemized sales tax on the bill.
Right, because he doesn't itemize it. I understand what you're saying, Dr. Lisi, and I know that you were gonna have a meeting with him sometime this week or something like that.
We actually
And
did today.
we were gonna get it all straightened out, and I'm very happy for that, and I'm glad for that, because I wanna see that happen. And it's, all I'm saying is that, since November or something of last year is when we would just take our receipts and turn them in, and Mr. Henry would say that, we're paying the pump price, something's gotta be done.
So the receipts, we do a cross-reference between the receipts and the actual bill we receive later from the gas station itself. So that's how we cross-reference. But the owner knows that we're tax exempt, and we clarified that today and how that works. So
Okay, all right.
again, there may
Okay,
be a misinterpretation on his part.
That's super, then that's excellent. I'm glad for that. Okay, and
Okay.
do we have any feedback on the OCC and the inoculation?
I do not, Frank. I dropped the ball. I will have to ask that question. I got preoccupied with other things, so I will
Okay.
follow up. I made myself a note, and you will get your answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, I suspect maybe, but I'll get an answer for the, Yep.
I didn't hear the buzzer.
We'll get clarification for the board on that. Believe that's the policy of both.
I got 15 minutes
no,
left.
you got 15 seconds. Oh, no.
Now you're down to
No, I
9.
gotta take the first answer here. I got 15 minutes.
Yeah, but my answer is the one that
But,
counts.
okay, all right. I want to thank everybody for their time.
Yep.
I want to thank Dr. Lisi for, looking into that and getting that straightened out for us. And again, I like the screen. Thank you very much. And everybody have a good night, and we'll see what I may have to ask it later. Thank you.
Okay. Would someone move item 1.06 to approve the February 14th regular meeting minutes? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passed 700. Are there any questions with regard to the upcoming meetings and events? Okay, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Superintendent Polvino.
Do we have a safety meeting tomorrow?
Is that not on here? There's a Health and Safety Committee meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
It's the one postponed from last month.
And do we have a regular board meeting on the 14th?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started this evening. We had a little bit of weather this morning, but glad that this evening we're through that. Heard there's another storm coming, but it's on Friday night into Saturday, so very happy superintendent, so I don't have to watch that as much. First thing on this evening's agenda is the communication modalities. Dr. Lisi.
Thank you, Mr. Palvino. It seems appropriate with the snow day today that we're talking about communications for the district, because probably many of you received the text, the phone calls, the emails, the app, and so on and so forth. So I thought what I would do tonight is kind of clarify the ways in which the district communicates with our stakeholders, our community, and ways in which our community can communicate with the district. So, there are many ways in which this occurs, so I thought I'd kind of clarify what those look like, because I know there were questions around that. So first and foremost, one of the things I wanted to mention, and I'll go to the website here. First, let me just show you this real quick, if that works. Gotta love it. Technology is fun. Let's switch on there. So kind of want to cover generally what's on our website, and the reason why I bring that up is virtually everything that we communicate is housed in the website. And the way that I characterize websites in terms of communication, it's kind of our static place of putting all of our data, information, and so on and so forth. So it becomes our repository for the things that we share with the community and with our stakeholders. But there's very important links and resources on our website that I want to share with you. So I'll go to our website really quick so I can show you some of the information that's on there. I keep wanting to touch that, but let's try this again. On our website, let me start with this first of all. We'll talk a little bit about how you receive information. I think this is really something to make you aware about in terms of urgent or emergency communications that come directly from us. One of the technologies that we have and we use quite a bit, matter of fact, Mr. Wilson sort of takes care of all of this, is we have a tool in which we can create an urgent message and send it out to many different venues. So our website, social media, email, text, apps, and so on and so forth. In fact, this morning, if you were on our website, you probably noticed, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Wilson, if you went to our website, oh, you can't, you're going to do it over there. Yeah, I know. We'll catch on to this real quick. You probably saw the notice that flashed up on the website. So if there is an urgent issue in district, typically you'll see that on the website when you first go there. You'll see this urgent message. And if you just click, OK, got it. And you'll probably also see it in the announcement section here. So any newer information, urgent, emergency notices will be in those two areas. Also, what I wanted to share with you as well, how do you find out how to get a hold of us and who we are and what we do in district? So that there are a number of tools up on top here in the bar, home, district, departments, and so on. So I'm going to go to district real quick, and we're just going to go to the administration section here. You see some great photos. Not my best shot. So here, see who we are and what we do for the district. And also, how do you get a hold of us in terms of when you find out who we are and what we do? One of the ways you get a hold of us is through the staff directory over on the far right in the top bar. So if let's say you're looking for me, it's an operations thing, over at staff directory, last name is Lisi. So I'm just going to type in my last name here and hit search. And my name will come up with my title and the email address. Okay? So if you click on the email address, it'll open up your email and you can send me an email very quickly. Also, if we go to the departments, let's go there real quick. And let's say you want to get a hold of me by phone. Well, business, operations, facilities. Our phone numbers are always here on the side, so you can give us a call there. So if you have a question in any of those areas. Also on our business site here, you see our tax information and so on, which will be very important in the upcoming months. Also, there was a question about how do you send information to the district? I don't know about anonymous information, but if you have a general question and you want to get it to Brian or Mrs. Geithner or myself, we have an app called Let's Talk, and there's two different ways you can do that to send information to us. The first one's up on top in the red bar, the Let's Talk link, and also way over here on the right where it says Contact Us. If you click on that, it'll pop up here in a second. You can select a topic, and there's a general topic in there as well if you don't really have, if the other topics don't really fit. Who you are, student, employee, parent, guardian, community member. You have a question or a comment or suggestion, but just put a subject in there and your message. You can put your name and email. You don't have to in this particular slot, and just hit send. And we'll receive that. So we all have an app called Let's Talk that sends us a notice immediately when something is sent through there. Often what will happen is Mr. Wilson will just forward it based on the information to one of us who he feels could best answer that question. So we use Let's Talk quite a bit, and we would encourage the community to do so as well. Also, we had talked a lot about safety and security, and we've mentioned before the See Something, Say Something hotline. So we added this a couple of months ago given the climate, and one of the things that you can do is call, if you see something that you're concerned about in relation to safety and security, if you call the number, you can leave a voicemail. If you leave a voicemail on the See Something, Say Something hotline, we have a team that actually gets that voicemail right away, and we listen to it, and we will allocate the proper resources depending on the concern. So that's something, again, I would encourage folks to use. Obviously, if it's a real emergency, 911 is the best option. Okay? Yes?
How do we communicate this information, the See Something, Say Something, to our students? So how would they know that there's a hotline?
How would they? Through venues like this. And I think we'll continue to share that. I think we've sent it out before in our newsletters and so on and so forth, so we'll continue to share it that way. Okay. And that reminds me, let me go back here really quick. So the other venue that we've offered in terms of receiving communication, I know a lot of folks use this. I think we have over almost 2,000 users of our app, our Fulton City School District app. And again, the snow day today, you probably received 6 notices if you sign up for everything, right? And the app is used quite a bit. So all of our letters and notices and so on, we put on our app as well. How do you get the app? That's again on our website. Remember I said to go back to the website. If you're looking for something, everything's on the website. So go over there real quick. Just go to the homepage and scroll down. Real easy to find, and it works on both from the Apple devices and Android devices. You download it really quick, very easy, sign up, you get the notices. And I think we send out virtually everything that is newsletter related, urgent, so on and so forth via our app. Okay. Also, back here, obviously we use email quite a bit, so we send out everything via email as well. Our Board of Education, I think we just talked about how everything's in board docs as well, but let me show you really quick what that looks like just for the public. So again, back on the website, I go to District, Board of Education, Board Docs Public Access. And so when that opens up, it'll show us tonight's meeting, for example. So under tonight's meeting here, if I click on that, and you can go back in the history of all of our meetings, and you can see all the meetings, and I forget their first date, but I think it's around 2015 or 16, correct me? 17. So tonight's meeting, we'll click on regular meeting, and you'll see here where it says view the agenda. Okay. If you view the agenda, down here you'll see reports and presentations under superintendent's report. If you click on that, all of our presentations for tonight are there and can be viewed or downloaded or printed and so on and so forth. So all of the board meetings have that information and can be found in board docs. All of our policies are located here as well. You can search board docs for all of our policies, anything that's happened in our board meetings back to 2017 and so on. Bless you. We most certainly use social media. We rely on Facebook a lot. In fact, I think the most response we get for snow days is through Facebook, so that's always the first place I post that. That tends to be our primary social media venue, is the actual Facebook link. So I can show you really quick. That's our Facebook page. We have 6,200 followers on our Facebook page, so a lot of our information goes there as well. So. And again, and I think I mentioned this before, if there's an emergency or urgent information, that'll always be sent out via phone, text, app. Every venue we have, we tend to use that. Also, we recognize the fact that not everyone has digital resources with them all the time or use them comfortably, so we also still send out our newsletter in hard formats. We send out general mail, depending on what it is. So that is our another way that we communicate with our folks. And again, if you're, one of the questions that came up was building-specific communication. How do we get a hold of folks in our building? Mrs. Geithner, would you characterize that a bit for us? Thank you.
So some of the ways that our school buildings are using communication is through email communicated SMORE newsletters. So our principals are creating newsletters and sending those out. That's how they update their staff as well. So there's a week ahead document that goes out to our building staff from the building principals, and periodically family communications in the same. It's a website, essentially a website-based format that's unique to that school. And so newsletters are accessible through those links sent by the principals. From the district office, we create a weekly leadership update that goes to the building principals, all the district directors, instructional coaches, department chairs, and our FTA president. And so in that update are essential communication points, things that must be communicated to staff, things that must be communicated to families, and then items where action is required by our district leadership team, as well as must-knows and good-to-knows, and a district calendar. So that goes out every Wednesday evening so that principals have time and directors have time to include those in their weekly updates to staff and families.
Thank you. And also, again, on our website, if you go under schools, the contact information is there, the principal's name, the phone number, and so on and so forth. We don't post email addresses on the district website because of the rise of spam and phishing and so on, but if you do click on the names, it'll open up an email client, and you can send an email address to us. So, okay. And I believe we talked about contacting district folks. Again, you can search for our name, send us an email, call the phone number. Our general phone number is the 5500 number, and Ms. Perry will always direct those calls to the right person. Also, there's questions about sending information to the board so that all the board gets the email, and that's clerk@fulton.csd.org. fultoncsd.org. I'm sorry, I should know that, right? clerk@fulton.cinyrick.org. Right. Eventually I'd get it. It's on the board page, yes. So clerk@fulton.cinyrick.org. And that'll go to the entire board. Okay?
Dr. Lisi,
Yes.
do we train all of our staff so that they know how to use the website, so that if anyone came up to anyone in our district, they'd be able to say, on our website, you can do A, B, or C?
Specific training, no, but we do talk about it at the beginning of the year, and we kind of go over that information with folks.
And the second thing, just to note to the public, is I've talked with Dr. Lisi about it before, but from everything I can see from my end, which is nothing because I'm blind, the website is accessible at the moment. So if someone does have a visual impairment, they should be able to access the website as well.
Correct. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, there we are. I am wondering if we can get a single place where all of our forms, we do have complaint forms. I would not know how to direct somebody directly to the complaint form, but I also ran into a problem with another form, and I'm wondering if we can make the forms easier to access through our website.
Sure. That's a great question. It's a great
We,
question.
because we have several different types of, a couple different type of complaint forms, and there's some other forms that people might be interested in as well.
Sure.
So if we could make that easier for people to access, it would be helpful. In the meantime, if you don't, or if people aren't necessarily feeling comfortable going on the computer to access these forms, you could call any one of our buildings, and someone could forward you the proper form that you would need to fill out.
Correct. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that we recognize quickly is we have a lot of forms.
Yes.
We do, and so we want to try to set up some sort of search engine for finding the right forms, because I think if we listed them all, they'd be pages long. So, but I'm glad you brought that up. That is
Well,
something we're
because I
working
think now you have to really go into our policies and find the
Correct.
form exhibit in order to do it for a lot of them.
on. Correct.
And if you don't know our policies really well, that can be very challenging for people.
Absolutely.
And our past practice has been people call the buildings and we send them, mail them. But now that we are online, we probably should update our website to include forms.
Absolutely. My final point, and it's really important, it's one that we've noticed when we send out information like snow day and so on and so forth, it's imperative that we have the most up-to-date information from folks. So your phone number, your email, your contact information, if it has changed, contact your building and let them know what that is so that we can ensure that you're receiving all of these notifications. And with that, I'm done. I'll turn it over.
And you weren't on a microphone, but I want to know if that was really sent out well. People could hear what he just said about updating their information, Tim? Oh, you are mic'd up. Okay, I can't see it.
Yeah. It's stealthy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Excellent, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. DiBiase for our finance report.
All right, thank you for having me. Looking at our revenues and expenditures as of January 31st, I do want to highlight that we had about $41.1 million in revenues this year compared to 40.7 last year. So we are receiving roughly the same amount of money, the same percentage of what we expect as last year. And same thing for our expenditures, we're right on track. Last year at this point, we had spent 47% of the budget, and this year we have spent 47% of the budget as well. $35.7 million last year compared to 36.9 this year. So our spending and our revenues are remaining relatively consistent across years, and we are seeing no interruptions in our operations. This next slide shows our cash flow projections. So the blue line is last year's cash flow. The orange is our projection, and then gray is how we actually shook out at the end of January. So you'll see that at this point we have better cash flow than we had last year. That's in part thanks to New York State's increasing of our state aid. And our projections are relatively on par. I would like to note that any fluctuations in this really represent fluctuations in timing more so than actual receipt of funds, just based on where they fall in the month. All right. So this time of year, we're looking at our tax cap as we go into the budget season. And for those who are unfamiliar, this is New York State says the tax can increase 2%. It's actually 2% with exclusions, which is what this form shows. So last year, our levy was $22,045,571. Our tax base grew slightly. And then we have some pilots that we collected last year and we anticipate to collect next year, as well as some debt that we are allowed to exclude. So you'll see that allowable levy growth factor is at 2%. We're allowed to increase by 2% or CPI. This year, with how inflation has been, that is well above 2%. So we're sticking with that. And with all of those, before any adjustments and exclusions, our levy limit would be $22,545,969. So in the exclusion side, we have the capital tax levy exclusion, and that is basically, we have in 1 year what we claimed for the prior, that is the number on the previous slide, and then this year is what we project, or this slide rather, is what we project for next year's capital expense. So that is an exclusion of $308,192, which means that our total tax levy limit with exclusions would be $22,845,161. So without any tax increases, that means that the levy could go to $808,590 higher than it was in 22-23 with a simple majority vote.
So if I was going to put that in, so right now, we normally, we start talking about tax levies, things like that. Right now, our funding looks very good from New York State, so we had talked. But our range right now, if we were looking at this in let's say 3 years from now, you know, but we're looking at this tax levy, what was that the equivalent of? 800,000 is roughly 3 point.
It would be
3.67%.
So that is, we're allowed to go up to that because, like I said, New York State calls it the 2% tax cap, but because of those exclusions, we could actually increase 3.67 with a simple majority vote.
Because that's often a question we get. And so our range really is 0 to 3.67 this year would be the simplest way to look at that. And as we said at our previous roll forward meeting last time, our numbers are looking very good this year. Very different than many years before, so that's good news. We'll do more presentations at our March 14th meeting and then the 28th. The other piece, could you just reference the debt limit, because there's a reason why we're putting that capital project on. Can you just explain that a little bit to me or to
Sure.
the team?
So our debt limit basically says we can only take out a certain amount for capital projects and things like that, but we do get aid on those capital projects. So what happens is that capital exclusion is basically the net impact to the levy, and we're allowed to say in 22-23, this was how much of our capital project expense would impact the levy, and 23-24, you know, it's that other number. And so what happens is if the debt falls off and we don't continue to have capital improvements within the district, what can happen is that in that next year, if you don't have a capital exclusion, it can cause the tax levy limit to become negative, which would mean that a supermajority would be required to have a 0% tax increase.
So it's just important for us to always be aware of all the parameters, and the debt limit is one of those. It's one of those areas where you want to have debt on the books, and this is one of the things that we've talked about when we talk about the constitutional debt limits as well. So I want to keep putting that out there, the importance of really understanding that constitutional debt limit that hopefully will be on the vote back in November, hopefully, because that would change, a game changer for us as capital improvement projects, things like that. Instead of doing these smaller projects, we would be able to do a $50 million project, as opposed to these smaller projects where we're just trying to repair and catch up, really be able to get out in front of it and create some facilities and some things where we're providing what we need instructionally in those classrooms and social emotionally in those classrooms for all of our kids. You know, at some point, one of our board meetings, we should go down and see our tech rooms that we've kind of been able to use the existing spaces, but really changed what's going on in those spaces for kids. That should be able to happen in many different places. So I think it's just over time. But I thank you for clarifying that and the importance of debt limit and things like that. So
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any questions for Danielle or?
I just have a
Dr. Lacey?
question about what we're going to be voting on to possibly raise that debt limit so that we can borrow more against it as a percentage to become equal with other districts?
Yes.
Is that just in the area of capital improvements, or will that affect all borrowing across all areas?
So the debt limit is for any debt that we take out. I will say typically the debt that we're taking out would either be for a capital project or equipment purchases like buses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question. Any other questions? All right, thank you. We're going to go back to the Family Fun Day. Got them out of order a little bit there. Family Fun Day, Ms. Geithner.
Good evening. I am presenting some information from our Director of Student Support Services, Liz Tiffany, who had a family emergency and wasn't able to be here herself to share. But in your handouts at your place, you'll see our Fulton Family Fun Day flyer. This is the event previously known as Parent University in past years. So exciting information about this day. It is March 18th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's at Fulton Junior High. The event will have a number of activities that are intended for our students and their families of all ages. And so we welcome all enrolled Fulton City School District students, as well as our incoming UPK and kindergarten students who may not be enrolled in a Fulton program. We will have make and take family meals. The Children's Museum of Oswego will be here with interactive science exhibits. There are virtual field trips. Slime Time and the States of Matter are two of the offerings from the virtual field trips. Bubble Man will be here. There will be a basketball ball handling clinic, taekwondo drop-in lesson session, face painting, arts and crafts, a lacrosse clinic, the YMCA babysitting course, physical and immunizations, and some of those will require pre-registration, and that information will be sent out through the various means that Dr. Lacey talked about tonight. UPK and K registration will open that day at this event, so families can come and register their UPK and kindergarten students. We will have breakfast and lunch and snacks, and transportation is available for those who need a ride. All of these events are free. We have over 40 community organizations who will be there to offer resources and sponsor activities, and families will have the opportunity to complete a scavenger hunt to move through the various stations that day, which when they submit it will make them eligible for a lot of great raffle prizes. So we hope to see everybody there. You don't need to come and stay the whole time. Come and give us whatever time you have available. And there'll be lots of things for you to see and do, and many things for you to take home with you as well. And I want to thank Liz Tiffany, the entire director team, the principal team, our instructional coaches and interdisciplinary specialists, and especially our community school resource coordinator, Monica Kyle, and Heather Pitcher, our community school advocate, who put lots of time and energy into planning this event. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Geithner. Any questions? I'll be available that entire day, just as always. I've normally set myself up and available for any people in the community to discuss just questions, answers, thoughts, listening, whatever the case may be. We've done that with board members, but in the past, the board members have wanted to move around more and be accessible. But I will make sure that I'm in an area, so if any parents, families, anybody wants to come in from the community and talk with me and share, that's a great opportunity to do so. It's on a Saturday morning and bring families. So thank you. So it should be a great event. Next item on the agenda is the instructional calendar, believe it or not, for 23-24. that we're bringing forward as a draft. It'll come forward to the board on March 14th for vote. So as you see, just to highlight this a little bit, we've built in, we're actually starting after Labor Day. This coming school year, we are very consistent. We worked with other counties and other BOCES to make sure that we line up as far as some of our breaks to make sure there's consistency. A lot of our staff and our families have different connections and whatnot, so we've tried to do that. So we'll start with our kids on Thursday the 7th. Then you can read through, I'm not going to read these all. We've built in the early releases for conferencing. If you move on through, in October, we've moved our first Superintendent's Conference Day to October this year. That's a county-wide day, so we can work with other school districts to do different types of offerings in different content areas. We've got our pre-K 6 early releases in November for conferencing. You move into December with 185 plus 1 calendar, 186 days. Our recess for the holidays, Christmas recess, will be the 22nd through the 29th, with a return back to schools on the 2nd of January, 2024. You'll fast forward to February. You'll see, once again, what we did a little bit different this year. We're doing an early release day on the 9th. That's our data reset day. In the past, we've used that as a Superintendent's Conference Day. This year is what we did, but this year we're going to do it as an early release because we want to be consistent with other school districts. And you'll see in March, there's a county-wide day on the 11th of March as well as you move forward. I didn't highlight February break. President's Week starts the 19th. Move into March. We have a early release comp day for conferences once again in the spring for the March, on March 28th, and then we're off on the 29th of March for Good Friday, and then we return on April 1st. And then in April, you'll see April recess is scheduled for the 22nd through the 26th. Move on to May, you've got Memorial Day. Those are the range of test dates that are available for the CBT math and science. ELA was in April. Go into June, you'll see another test date for science, grade 8. And then the Regents exam weeks are the 14th through the 26th. The Juneteenth is on the day that it's scheduled, so it has to be on the 19th if it's not on a Saturday or Sunday, which changes that, so it's on the 19th. And then our last day for students is the 25th, with the 26th, the last day, rating day, and a conference day. So it comes out to a 186-day calendar, relatively balanced, and it's consistent with other school districts as far as the superintendent's conference days. There may be, if you look at other districts, they may have a 187-day calendar. There's other districts that have 185-day calendars. So that changes a few days here and there, but we tried to arrange our superintendent's conference days consistently. So that's our calendar draft for 2023-24. Are there any questions? Thank you. And then finally, I'm just going to do a little bit. This is Music in Our Schools Month, believe it or not. Starts tomorrow, March 1st. And there's concerts. If you, it's on our calendar. We have them on there. I also have provided them on the weekly bulletin. You'll see all of they're all mapped out throughout the course of the month. The big, one of the big highlights coming up in the next week, we have Shrek, our musical. I got the opportunity to see a little bit of it last night. As I was coming over to just check on things and the weather and things like that last night, and the kids were so excited, you know, and I got to hear some of the tunes they're doing. It seems like a very large group. There had to be 40 kids or so it's a nice balanced group. But Shrek starts next Thursday night, 7:30. Then we have a showing 7:30 Friday night next week, and then a matinee on Saturday at 2 p.m. I believe it is, and then 7:30 p.m. we have our final show on Saturday. So there are 4 opportunities for everybody to do that. I know we're trying to set up that link on the website, Ms. Perry, so you can buy or purchase the pre-sale tickets as well.
Wonderful.
So they told me last night, I was talking to some of the parents, they said $400 to $500 a night. I said, let's go for it. So they're excited, and I got an opportunity to speak to some parents last night as well. So great things, and Music in Our Schools Month is just a great event here in Fulton with all of our schools doing different shows throughout the course of the month. So please see the schedule. And with that, I will turn it back to our president. Thank you.
Would someone move item 4.01 to accept our financial reports? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and abstentions. Passed 700. Item 4.02, disposal of surplus property. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and abstentions. Passed 700. Item 5.01, to approve the Committee on Special Education recommendations. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Passed 700. Item 5.02, to approve the State Environmental Quality Review. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Passed 700. First reading of the policy on free and reduced price meals or free milk. Any questions? Is everyone good with it? All right. I'm wondering if you'd like to batch items 7.01 through 7.08, our personnel.
Second.
Any discussion on any of those resolutions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and abstentions. Passed 700. Mr. Crandall, welcome back. How would you like to start this evening? But you're here.
All I wanted to thank.
Pull yourself closer. Yeah, there you go.
I want to thank Dom and Jerry for the presentation and our financial report. I think everything's going well. We're getting close to budget time, and that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Cordone?
Sure. I wanted to thank Superintendent Palvino and his team for their responsiveness to the needs of the community in the way of giving information in all of the reports. I think the last meeting as well as this one. I know that it seems that there's a need for information and everybody's in a different place, and it's hard to kind of meet all of those needs, but I appreciate the effort. And I want to I'll just say that looking forward to Music in Our Schools Month, it's always one of my favorite months of the year, so that's it.
It's certainly a fun one. Mrs. Papalardo?
Yes, so I just wanted to see what kind of information we have out there for the upcoming board elections, just so that people know they have to have their petitions done and signed. Oh, Tammy. Petitions need to be signed and ready, so I just think we need to do a good job of getting that out there for potential candidates. And I know that I've said this before, but I do advocate for the 5 minutes for our community members. I'm not sure how we can go ahead and put that. How do I bring that up for a discussion?
You need to ask for it to be brought up at policy. Is it the will of this board to have that revisited at the policy committee? That time frame. I just want to point out that 3 minutes is 10 people is half an hour.
I understand that, but I feel that this is a position that we are elected for to hear from our community members.
I'm not
we've had, I mean, this is it, you know,
Excuse-
there's a few people that are in here, and I feel like that's the least that we can do. If they use it or not, that's up to them, but I don't care if I'm here for 4 hours if that means that people are getting heard. I just want you guys to know that I'm.
Still 30 minutes, though. So if we do 5 minutes, it's still 30 minutes.
We can't, so it doesn't matter.
Well, we can extend for up to,
Because our
you have to
meetings
have a
also
vote,
have time
so
limits
there's a
as well.
vote to extend for 30 minutes.
So we can take that vote in the beginning and extend it for an extra 30 minutes.
Gotcha, depending on how many people are signed up to speak. Now, what about the second public forum? Is there a time limit on that?
We follow the same 3
Okay.
minutes, yeah.
No, but I meant for overall. So we have 30 minutes for the public forum at the beginning
I
of
would
the
follow the
meeting.
same, I'm going to look at my other veteran colleague. It's typically the same.
Okay.
And again, it's not to stop people from talking.
I,
There is a requirement, and I have to stress this. I have to stress that the requirement is whatever we do, we have to be consistent and do it. So when you fill an auditorium, which you've not done, but I have, you have to allow the same rules. So when you have a full auditorium and a lot of people that want to speak, you have to allow for them to speak. It becomes very difficult to manage. 3 minutes isn't because you're trying to shut people up.
no, I know that, but I think that
It is
that's.
trying to get as many people to the podium as possible when you have a hot item issue, so that more people can talk, because we do need to hear, when people are upset, we need to know what they're thinking. We can't be responsive if we don't. So that's really what was behind it, and the research, what a lot of other people were doing and what seemed to be a good time frame. To be honest, I'm a talker, and if I can take my thoughts and get it down to 3 minutes because I write down my bullet points, it's doable. It just takes some effort beforehand to do it. And I say that very seriously, because long before I say it here, I used to come and stand there. So I do understand what it is to be at that podium. And I'm simply saying that for equity and to meet the requirement on the board, that's something entirely different, is that fairness issue. And you never know when you're going to start having crowds.
Yep.
And
So-
if I could just have one
Yes,
thing.
please do.
It's because I don't know of any other board that has a second
Right,
public forum either.
right.
No other board that I've observed. And that came
David, yep.
that came from the board at that time.
Yes.
Chose to give the folks present an opportunity to respond to an agenda
The
item.
meeting, yeah.
So, so I mean, we really did that in the spirit of
Yes.
of welcoming comment from the public.
But I think also to go with the question, Robin,
Mm-hmm.
if there is an issue and it wants to be brought up, you do have the right to bring it to policy so that we do look it over again. It
Yep.
might or might not be the same answer, but you do have the right to do that with anything we're
So-
working on, right?
It is true, but what I'm going to ask now, it's been brought up, I'm going to ask a majority of this board, do you want to move it forward? It's on it's on the list, but if you want to move it up, I believe I need to see a majority of the board that wants to move it forward. To move it to the next policy meeting and start the discussion.
And is correct my understanding too, Robin, there are some policies that really don't have to go to policy committee because they're the board really.
Well, that's true, we don't have to send it there, but
Right.
if we don't, then we're leaving out other voices.
And I'm not saying. we
So
shouldn't, I'm
that's
just
why
saying
I'm
that-
recommending it go there, so
I'm
that.
just saying that the outcome from the policy committee may be different than what the majority of the
It
board
could
will
be.
support in the end.
It
so.
could be.
Right, I guess that's not what I'm understanding is the whole process. So if I bring it up, I say,
Right.
I'm not part of the policy committee. I
Right.
say, I want to bring this to the policy committee.
Yep.
They review the policy, but do they know that, someone has spoken up to say?
Well, you have board representatives on the policy committee, all the
Right, okay.
stakeholders, you
All
have
right,
teachers.
I don't know, so
Well,
that's
no,
why
I'm,
I'm asking.
I'm going to
so-
try to explain it, because you don't
Yeah.
know. So we have teachers, we have board members, we have students, we have administrators, we have community members that sit on policy committee to try to represent our stakeholder groups. And so they take a shot at it. Now, understand that they can recommend a policy, it can come to this group, and the board, we have final say. So we can accept it as it's sent to us, or we can change it.
Okay,
So that is how it works.
all right.
That's why we do the first reading, second reading.
Yes,
So the policy
yes.
committee brings it, the first reading is, and that's why Robin always says, is there any discussion?
Mhm.
That's the perfect time for that discussion, because you get the red line document.
Right.
You get the original, then you get any redlined recommendations, and that's what the board is then, your task then is to look at those policies and then ultimately approve them at the second reading.
Okay. And then I just have one more thing. Mrs. Geithner, the UPK registration, that is beginning the day of the family day. How long do people have to register their kids? Do we do registrations throughout the whole summer?
It's
and they
rolling,
Can, okay,
yes. And
I
we,
gotcha.
we actually are
Okay.
still registering UPK kids, so
All
we'll
right,
take you
thank you.
anytime there's space available.
All right, thanks. That's all.
Mrs. Mainville.
I agree that we should definitely look at the policy and bring it to policy committee about public speaking and have that discussion, because I can see both points of view, I really can. 3 minutes is not a long time. 5 minutes, I think, would be better. However, I did not know that we were one of the only boards that have a second board forum, which I think is also equally as important as having more time, because once you sit and you listen and maybe you forgot something to speak up about at this particular meeting, and you want to get back up and comment about that just to emphasize your point or say something else. So 3 and 3 is 6, or we have 5 minutes at the beginning. So I think it would definitely not hurt to have that discussion, and it can be an ongoing discussion, and we can look at the pros and cons. So I'm all for bringing it to the policy committee. So there's that. I have to figure out what my notes say. Dr. Lisi, I really appreciate your presentation and about community communication and how we're getting different ways for people to communicate, and students as well. Like, that is a really good point. The kids really don't know where to go besides maybe the guidance office or the principal's office if they're available, because I also know that they are pretty busy too. So maybe we can look at, they have time in, we don't call it WIN here, we call it guided study hall. Maybe guided study hall, we can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes and go over the website and say, these are very important, little tabs. You need to remember this, and this is how you can communicate your point. Here's the emails that you want to send to different people. Here's your complaint forms. It's anonymous, or it doesn't have to be anonymous. I think that would be a great thing. I know that our website has so much information, and I try to go on there and navigate it just so that I have a better understanding of it too, because it is a lot. And I personally don't think it would be a horrible idea that maybe on a professional development day, maybe bring all the staff together and just go through it very quickly. I know that there's some of the tabs, I know athletics, because that's where I am half the time. Some of it is outdated, and we have a lot going on right now. But maybe if we give, that department a certain amount of time just to, revamp it, make it look better, make it more, user-friendly, update things, because I know that, certain things have priority over the website sometimes. So, thank you for that. Anyway, this is why we need more time to talk, right? You can just ramble. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
That's why notes are good, because you get everything in.
Right.
That was my point.
I even
Mrs.
bulleted,
Abelgor.
and I still I still lost my place.
Mrs. Abelgor.
Thank you so much for the communications, pointing us in the right direction. Just piggybacking off of Jen a little bit, where she said that maybe in guiding study hall we could work with our kids about this. Sometimes we have those nice little posters that we put together for things. Is it possible that maybe in our guided study hall rooms that we could bullet those important tabs for our students so that they would be able to have that? Because sometimes they may not want to ask the teacher again, or someone might have been absent on the day that we went over it, but at least it's there. I'm sure that you probably went over it a little bit in the beginning of the year, but a refresher is probably always good for that. So I too am excited about Music in Our Schools Month, Mr. Cordone. Even though I do not have students here any longer, it is my favorite month of the year. I can't stress enough, if you have never been to a Quirks Players production, you probably want to go this year. Shrek sounds amazing. I don't know, just sounds really, really fun. So that will be interesting. I know that you give us the backups for the concerts, and you could go to individual pages, but is it possible, is it on the front page to have the concerts on there? I mean, I know some people in the community kind of miss those beginning stage music things, so they, might be interested in getting out there. And I hope that we have no more snow days. All the 2-hour delays. Jess, you missed this part of the conversation. We want Sundays at Memorial Day. So now that's just a little plug for myself there. But thank you so much for all the information tonight. Good conversation, and that'll be it for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Connors?
I'd like to start off. Mrs. Geithner, is it Read Across America this upcoming week? Or is it not this upcoming?
Yes, it is Read Across America Week. So there is a number of literacy activities going on, lots of celebrations. You might have noticed on our on our Facebook page today, actually, it was Spirit Week at some of our elementary schools, and some of our students didn't want to miss the opportunity. So there are a couple of photos that I saw today posted of kids from home in their Spirit Week attire. So anytime we can encourage any member of our community, regardless of their age, to read something of interest to them, regardless of what it is, we really want to do that. And we appreciate the time that families took today to do that at home. So thank you.
Yes, always an interesting month with all the activities, so I wanted to mention that. I wanted to thank everybody who's been participated in the dialogue tonight. I think it's important that, one person doesn't have all the best ideas in their head, and the only way we'll get to a better decision is if we're taking in voices from everywhere, because we all have an expertise in something, and by taking all those things into account, we can come up with a consensus that's better than what we could do on our own. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is it's been 2 weeks now since our first meeting on the Community Leadership Collaboration Committee. And I just wanted to mention how I found the first meeting to be a success. My job as the board representative is I want to kind of give you an overview of what we kind of talked about and did. Robin and I thought this would be the best forum to do that. And so really, as an introductory meeting, we went through and discussed all our positions. As you know, we have different stakeholders within the district. We have different stakeholders within the community, such as the mayor, the police department, different organizations dealing with, social services, drugs. I believe it's that Pharma is the Farnham. So different stakeholders in this meeting. We all went through, were able to talk, and then we started off with a brainstorm of what we wanted to really look towards. And the biggest thing is we all have these different resources. We all have these things available to us, and we all can make an impact in our own ways. But we also have information. One of the things that really stood out to me was a moratorium put in place by the city of Fulton to prevent more vape shops from opening. Currently, I believe I was talking with someone, there was an extension on that, but basically that prevented to be, I believe the number was 3, I don't want to be misquoted on that were open, and then we prevented, I don't know if it was a total of 12 or 12 from, because those are things that maybe not people are knowing about, but each people in their silo are doing things to combat what's going on, even if it's not known. So what I found to be so important about this meeting was we were all sharing the different things going on in our groups, in our meetings, and we were able to say, oh, you're doing this here, you're doing this here, so we could come up with a community response. Because we all have our pieces and areas, but coming together, we were able to get a better and bigger picture, and therefore be able to become more effective in our roles. So right now, there are committees I've been on where sometimes it's more just the talking and doing things, but I really see that there's a future with this committee to really make an impact and come at the community safety, response to drugs, et cetera, all these things that a community approach and have a greater impact. So I hope that was a sufficient update for everybody, and I believe that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for the update, Tim.
And just in addition to that, March 8th is the next meeting, and we'll do that online. That was the preference of the group. I believe it's scheduled that way again. Is that correct, Ms. Perry? And I just want to say, everybody that was invited, DAs, everybody we had 100% turnout in 1
Excellent.
week turnaround. I've never seen that many people come together in 1 week and come together. So I want to just thank everybody who's on that committee. And as Tim said, it was very powerful. And I think it's going to allow us to do the work that needs to be done for all of our children pre-K through 12th grade in our system. So thank you.
To piggyback on your comment, Tim, the city at their last, city council at their last public meeting did approve advertising for a public hearing on to continue the moratorium on smoke shops. So that's, keep your eye on the newspaper, or in your case, listen however you do that with your equipment. I'm going to beat you to the punchline. Let's see. At this point in time, I want to do a poll here on moving our policy on board meetings, in particular the portion of public addressing the board at board meetings. That policy, I'd have to look up the number, but are you to move this to the policy committee for review? We'll move it ahead of the line. I got a yes, a yes. I know those are two yeses. A yes, a yes. Tim Connors?
Can I abstain because I'm on policy?
Well, you can, but why would you want to?
I don't know. I didn't know because if I'm on policy.
No, yeah, no,
but-
you're good.
Okay, then yes.
Okay, so we're going to move that forward, Superintendent Polvino, that policy forward, and let the discussion begin. Okay, thank you for that. I am very excited about Family Fun Day, and I certainly hope people take advantage of it. It's really a great activity, not just for the kids, it's a lot of fun for adults, and it's a great way to, this time of year, to run into people maybe you haven't seen, because we tend not to come out like we do in the good weather. So it's really good for the soul. I highly recommend it if you have time to stop by and check it out. I want to thank administration for adding the big screen over here behind me. I'm going to ask after the meeting how that worked out for our audience. I'm very appreciative of the quick response to that need. And at this point, that's enough, and I'm going to move us to, okay, so this second public forum is to talk about an item that was on tonight's agenda. If anyone has, okay.
Dr. Lisi, thank you very much for tonight's presentation. Very informative, and I'm glad we're getting that out there, especially for our students to know. They need to know. The other communication thing that I have an issue with, Monday we had a lockout at school. My students called me, of course, I immediately called the school. I was put on the phone with the SRO. He immediately explained the situation to me. It was great. I have no complaints about it. The only thing that I was concerned about is my students told me that the teachers are not aware of what's going on when we do these lockouts, and neither are they. So, I mean, I can understand with the little kids and maybe even the junior high, we got to be careful what we say. But the high school students and the high school teachers?
I don't honestly know. I'd have to refer to whoever was in this building.
Right.
I don't know what the police department shared at that point, because this was initiated by the police department.
Right, it wasn't anything to
So
do with
I
our
don't know
school.
how much
Right.
information they shared.
Well, the SRO told me what the SRO told me.
Right,
over
but
the phone.
he has a different line.
Right.
So I'm just saying,
But
I don't know what everybody
He simply told me
knows.
it had nothing to do with the school. It was a police
Right.
issue outside of the school. The
Mhm.
school locked out for safety
Right.
precautions. Now, alls I'm saying is, can we immediately communicate that to our teachers and students so that they don't panic?
I can't answer that. I'll have to refer to the superintendent. And if you can come back or let us know what the answer is. I don't know how that was.
My only
Yeah.
concern with it is the teachers were still unaware, and they're asking me, do you know what's going on? They should know what's going on immediately. They're in the building. I'm not, you know? So that would be great if we can figure out a way. I get the middle school and the little kids, you can't be telling them that they'll panic,
Yep.
you know? But the high school, I think it would be a lot better if the teachers know what's going on. That's twice now, because the school shooting incident, I literally had 3 teachers coming up to my daughter asking her, hey, what'd your mom and brother find out? What's going on? we're outside of the school, they're in the school, they should know more than me. You know? So if we can just work on that, that'd be great too. Thank you.
Yep. One of the hardest things that all districts face, not just ours, is people having cell phones are communicating what they think is happening before we actually know what's happening. And sometimes the information has not, there's been cases where it's not been accurate. And then we are backtracking, trying to give correct information. And so as a board member and my colleagues as well, we will get sometimes hit up right away for what's going on. We don't even know what's going on yet because administration's trying to establish exactly what's happening. It is not a big secret. There's no secrets. It's about being able to ascertain the facts. Yes, we need facts. We can't and should not be sharing anything that hasn't been established as true. And that is what takes so much time on our end, because we've got a few layers of people to go through. I don't panic when I don't know. I'm like, I don't know, but I know what they will inform me as soon as as soon as the information is verified, they inform the board. The board is informed once they have verified information. I don't know how to respond to people when they say, well, I need to know right now. Your kids are calling and I can't stop that. What I'm saying is, though, it is problematic because they're operating oftentimes off rumor, and sometimes they get a good rumor, and sometimes they don't. What I get the phone call is when my kids call me, and it's more than just my kids. Yeah, I didn't want to have a... What's going on? Why are we on lockdown? I don't know. Let me find out. I think they should be able to ask the teacher, hey, why are we on lockdown? And the teacher should be able to tell them. And again, the superintendent will have to come back and explain the process because, again, that's not our purview as a board. But I just want the community to be aware that this is a frustration since the development of cell phones, or since cell phones became an everyday item for everyone, which it is. And we are working through it like all the other large organizations. It is a very difficult process to work through because just when we think we've got a handle on it, something comes up and it's like, well, that's not working really well for us. It's not that people aren't paying attention to it. They are. It's just a very slippery slope trying to get our arms around it, and people are just doing the best they can and with very difficult challenges. It's very challenging when other people think they know what's going on and they're telling people before we have verified what's going on. So, but it's not, no one's trying to keep information from anyone. I can't stress that enough. That's not the case. All right, so Frank or Tammy, did you want to speak to tonight's agenda? If it's not on the agenda, not for this one. But you can ask us after the meeting. Okay. Thank you. I am too. I appreciate that.
Sometimes rules can be broken. A couple of things. One, the policy committee. You said that, I believe you said that the general public is also on that?
We have representatives.
How do you get on the list to be on the policy committee?
Well, why don't you let the superintendent's office know you're interested?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All
That's a
right.
good start.
Okay. Now, the second thing, and bear with me because I'm old, but I'm looking at the school calendar, superintendent, and I go back to sports days in that if you want to slow a team down, you take a timeout. And it seems to me that every time the kids are just getting started into a process, we've got a day off. We got a superintendent's day. We got an early release. Now, I know that it's 185 days or 186 days. When did we start making, and I know it wasn't Fulton, okay, that put back the number of days we're in school, because going back to when I was in school, we had a break at Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter, and that was it. Okay, but we did have two. In February, we had Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday off, but then they combined it into one, and it really messed us all up. But I'm just looking at it as a point that some people are talking in certain areas of saying, well, let's have the kids go to school all summer long. Let's make it an all year round classrooms. Well, if you have them in school more time between September and June, you wouldn't have to. And it also causes havoc within, nowadays, we have parents that are both working, and all of a sudden they're just getting started, and then there's a day off. Now they have to turn around and try to figure out, and I know that it's not this board's and the administration's idea to change this, but I think it just we have to start pushing back somewhere, somehow. The public has to start pushing back and saying, let's keep our kids in school, let's get them educated. Let's, when they get into the workforce, they're not going to get as many days off. I can tell you a story. One kid that came to work for us at Carrier, he came up to us and he said, well, do we have Columbus Day off? His name from that day on was Columbus Day. We called him Columbus because he thought he was going to get Columbus Day off. But that's what happens, is they get in tune to having so much time off. And I think it's better for the education of all our students to have more time in the classroom and less time off.
So you start advocating for more aid so that we can afford to pay for those additional days, and then we can talk.
Well, I got no problem.
I'm just telling you, that's where you got to start.
I got no problem asking the federal government.
No,
or
you
the
got to
state
get it,
government
though.
for-
It's not just, you've got to successfully obtain the resources
Well, we
in
pay
order
enough.
to
We
do
pay
that.
enough in school and federal taxes to get
Well,
enough
it's
money
not
in
going to
here.
do it, Frank. I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
There's,
well,
there's our reality.
Well, I just say that we have to do something in there. Now there was one other issue. Now you made me forget it.
I'm sorry.
Thanks a lot. No, you did it. You did it on purpose.
Time's up.
Of course I did.
No,
Time's
yeah,
up.
no. She
I paused
interrupted
it.
me.
Your time's
You-
up.
No, I was getting interrupted over here.
Sorry.
Okay, well, that's it. I'll talk to somebody afterwards about something. I don't-
Okay.
you know what?
Thanks, Frank.
Dr. Lisi, if you could make the font a little bit bigger, I would appreciate it. Everything out is beautiful. I can see it when you got it up here like this, but when you went to your charts, going to the different areas, I really couldn't see where you were, who you were talking about. All right, but I know you can't because there's only so much room on there. But it's great. I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Those are my extra 15 seconds.
Okay. I now need a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions, passed 700. After a 5-minute break, we will start work in executive session. Thank you. Joined us. Okay. All right, we have returned from our executive session, and at this moment, I would like to ask someone to move item 9.01 to adjourn this meeting.
Move it. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, and abstentions, pass 700. Thank you all.